started. All right. Thank you all very much for taking the time to participate in today's training. My name is Stephanie Otzenbach. I'm based here in Zurich and project manager of Corning's environmental reporting out of the head office. So throughout your time with us and this project, if you ever have any questions, I'm always happy to help you out in anything, especially when it comes to knowing what it is that we actually are requiring for the environmental reporting in terms of content. You might have read in the informational email that this environmental reporting has actually been set as a mandate by the Executive Board. Just a little bit about the history of the project. We've been reporting for our traditional tour operating outbound division since 2011 on their environmental impact of the offices. And last year we included the divisions of global travel services and visa facilitation services. So we actually have now about a 90% coverage of our entire carbon and electricity and other environmental impact footprints, and we publicly report this on our website as well as our annual report. This year, we just would like to close the gap a little bit by inviting you all, which is the destination management specialists, as well with the outbound specialists, to join in the project. In general, we have committed to this for 3 reasons. Number one, it's become increasingly more and more mandatory to report on your environmental consumption. So far, we know of 140 regulatory instruments which are addressing sustainability reporting in over 30 countries. This is becoming much more the rule rather than the exception. Second, there's increasingly investor demand to know of the companies that they want to invest in environmental impacts. Occam Research, which you might not have heard of, but is a leading rating agency in sustainable investments. They have an investment volume of 520 billion euros. And last year they rated Kuoni as a prime investment for sustainability. This is something that we're all very proud of here at the headquarters, because only 3 out of the 40 companies that they have rated in the tourism industry have achieved this rating. And of those 3, Kuoni was rated as the most sustainable. We all pretty much acknowledge that we would not have achieved this rating without the Executive Board's backing and commitment to this project. And I think it's also very important for you to know how important your role is in the project. We have over 120 colleagues across the world in 400 plus offices which are helping us to actually report on our consumption. So I'm always happy to hear of newcomers. Finally, we really think it's important to be able to improve on our environmental performance, and we cannot achieve this without actually knowing where we are having the most impact. So if you don't measure it, you can't manage it, and if you can't manage, you cannot improve. Just a little side story here. We've realized last year that paper consumption in the head office here in Switzerland has been actually 7 times more that of our colleagues in Sweden. So for us, it's been a learning experience to be able to compare with each other, with other business divisions and other offices, how we are performing and where we need to improve, and actually exchanging with our colleagues in these offices to find out how it is that they're managing their paper. So here in the head office, we've committed to now default double-sided printing on our printers. And we really encourage you to learn from each other and to find best practice and to compare your performance with your other offices. We're happy to provide you with this data. So let me just hand over now to Lisa Gibson, who will take you through the training of the software. She's our support manager at Credit 360. Credit 360 is very reputable. We're very happy to be working with them. They've been rated as the best sustainability software by several independent organizations. So we're happy to have you guys on board. Lisa.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, and thank you all for joining today. First, I just want to ask whether you can all see the desktop. You should be able to see the login page for the Q&A site, and whether you can hear me okay.
Yeah, in solid cover, okay.
Excellent.
Yes, thank you.
Good stuff. Right, I'm just going to put you on mute just so we don't get any background noise. Turn those off. Okay, so the first thing you'll do when you come to the Q&A Credit 360 site is the login page. So you can get to this login page at www.qone.credit360.com. And you'll get the two text fields, your username and your password. Later this week you will receive a welcome email with your username, which is typically your first name and your surname. To get your password for the site, as you're a new user, you would come to the Q&A site and you would select, are you a new user? From there, you will enter your username into this field and click request an email. And then a password, details of the password will be sent to you, and you'll be able to log on in the future. So what we'll be covering in the session is what it's like to enter data into the delegation forms and what it's like for the person receiving the data to check it and approve it. So first we're going to log in as a typical data provider. Okay, so when you first log in to the Q&A site, this is what you'll see. This is your home page. First, before going into your home page, I'm first going to point you towards the admin page. This is where you will be able to update your information, so your name, your email address, for example. This is also where you can change the culture settings, so it will make it more applicable to your country, for example, using commas instead of decimal points and figures, for example. Another thing I'll point you towards is the Client Connect tab. And on Client Connect, bear with me. Thank you. On the Client Connect page, we have a part called Knowledge Base. And in Knowledge Base, you'll be able to find training materials, case studies, and guides on how to use the site. So if you ever want more information, you can come to this page. So let's go back to the login page. Your home page. On the home page, the most important area for you is the My Data tab. This is where you'll find all the delegation forms that you will need to complete. You can search for specific delegation forms by typing in the name and doing a normal search. You can also group them. You can do this by region. So here we've got our 3 training regions. You can do it by period. So all of these are to be completed for 2013. You can also do it by name. So the paper usage ones will be grouped together, energy consumption ones will be grouped together, for example. And it's also by user and by due date. I'll also point you towards these radio buttons. So the first one is data you're entering. These are all the forms for which you're still to complete and send to the data approver. There's also the radio button for data you have submitted. So these are forms which you have completed and that have been submitted to the approver. So if you need to find more information there. Okay, so let's go look at one of the delegation forms. We'll look at the energy consumption form. Okay, so this is the energy consumption form. We'll go through each part step by step. So first we'll look at the general information section. This is asking you for the number of personnel, both in headcount and full-time equivalents. It's also asking for the area of the building used by Kearney, so this will be your office, for example. So you can see here you can choose the unit for which the area of the building is recorded. This could be in meters squared or in feet squared. Below that we have the purchased electricity section. The first question is energy purchased from an electricity supplier? Check the box if yes. Now, if you leave this box blank, you will only need to complete this other question below it. However, if you tick this box, there will be other questions that appear beneath it. So we've got electricity consumed in kilowatt hours. You've also got a choice of megawatt hours as a unit, the percentage of renewable energy purchased, and also the cost of per kilowatt hour of electricity. So for this one, you can choose the unit of currency for your country. So for example, we've got the euro, got US dollars here. So if there was another currency that was not on the list, what you can do is use an online currency converter to convert to one of the other currencies that are on here. I think CHF is one that you can use for that. So let's go on and complete some of the data fields here. Put in some data. So you might notice that as I type in the data, the boxes go yellow briefly. Now this means that the data is being saved in the server. So when you're completing a form and you find that you don't have all the information, you have to come away from the form to find it, it means that it will still be there when you go back, that it won't be lost. Okay, I'd just like to point out this icon here, which allows you to add notes or upload files. Okay, so you're able to write any notes that correspond to the data at all. So you could put for this particular one, headcount complete, for example. You also have the ability to upload files. So this could be, for example, if it was for electricity, you could upload your invoices as a sort of backup information to say this data comes from invoices and here's the proof, which is very useful for auditing purposes. And we also have the Changes tab, which will let you see whether any changes have been made to the particular data field at all, and all the information will be found here. So we've set our to 100, so that's just happening. If anything else happens, it'll be down below that. So we've added our notes, and I'll do an example file upload, just so you know how it works. So just click on Choose File. So what will happen is when you click Choose File, you'll be able to browse and find the invoice or piece of information you're looking for, and it will upload onto the file section. So we'll just click Save for that. When you click Save, a little note, like a post-it note, will appear just to say that there's something in that section. I'll also point out the chart icon. This allows you to see graphically the information and data that you input. If there's previous year's data as well applicable, then you will see that in this section too. You can also see it in tabular form as well. Okay, so let's say that we have completed our form and we are happy with what we have input. Some final figures in here. From there, you would click Submit for Approval, and that will be submitted to the data approver. You can then put a note saying Data Complete, for example, and then click Submit. Okay, so that has now been submitted to the data approver. When you click on all these different fields, they're now locked down. You cannot edit them any further. So at this point, I will see if there are any questions so far.
Oh, thanks.
No?
This is Melissa. I actually do have a question.
Yes.
Electricity, for example, a lot of our offices, it's included in our lease. So would I just not check that box? Is energy purchased from an electricity supplier? Because we don't purchase it directly. It's purchased by the building, and they don't break out bills for us because they lease out, tons of offices within the buildings.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, Melissa. It comes up quite a bit because sometimes you do have that a lot of cases where you're sharing offices in a larger building. So usually what we ask is that ultimately you are purchasing energy from an electricity supplier unless you're creating your own energy form.
Exactly.
So you would have to try to work with your building manager or owner to get your share of the consumption. Usually they can calculate this based on the area of the building that you're using.
You've already asked, and they're not willing to do that because our leases state that they won't break that information out for us.
Okay. Now, I understand that in some cases it's very difficult to work with them, but traditionally we ask that you do try, and if you're trying, then please just mark that in your note when you submit the form that you are unable to provide the data at this time, just for auditing purposes, so that it's clear that we're attempting to collect the data, but that the responsibility ultimately does not lie with you. That's perfectly acceptable. We understand that. What is important here is, especially in those cases, that you fill in the general information section on personnel, because then we can extrapolate a kind of estimate on your consumption, which we can then use for reporting. So just make double sure to check to make sure that your full-time equivalent number coincides with that reported to your human resources.
Yeah, no, I do the head count because I'm in HR, so I'll be able to include the head count. Would I just indicate all zeros then for the electricity consumed and just put a note?
Yeah, you can just leave it blank, and then when you submit, you can just write a note saying that your data, your building manager was not able to provide the information.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions?
Okay, great. So we've input data as the data provider. Now we're going to go and look at the process for the data approver. So we're going to log in as a data approver. Okay, so the page, homepage for the data approver is just a little bit different. Instead of, they've still got the search and group by options for their forms, but they've got 3 radio buttons instead of 2. So in the first radio button, they've got forms that are pending their approval. So these are the forms which they have received from the data provider, but have not yet looked through and approved. There's the second, which is forms that have not been submitted yet. So these are still to be completed by the data provider. And finally, forms that have been approved. So these are the forms where the data approver has looked through the data and approved them, said, that looks good to me. So first we'll go through the process for approving the data. Okay, so when the data approver is looking at the form and looks at the data, they can do one of 3 things. Firstly, they could be happy with all the data that's in there. Says that looks right, looks that right. And then they can just simply approve the data, and that will be entered into the database. They could see that they're looking, for example, at the electricity consumption. They might say, that figure doesn't look quite right to me, and the data point might be in the wrong, decimal point might be in the wrong place. So what they can do is make it editable and make changes to that data. And then once they're happy with that, they can approve it. The third option is that they might look at the data and think, yes, the data provider needs to have another look at it to make sure that it's correct. So, for example, the number of full-time personnel may not be maybe higher than it should be. So what the data approver can do is highlight a query. So what we've got here is 100 full-time equivalents when there could actually only be 10 people in the office. So query would be check FTE numbers much higher than anticipated, for example. And then what they can do there is they can tick this tick box saying urgent, notify users immediately. If they tick this box, this will send an email immediately to the data provider to get them to check their numbers. If they don't check this box, it means that any changes that have been made to the form will be batched together in a single email and sent once a day rather than immediately. So we'll just leave that unchecked for now. You then go and click Save. We'll see that this red question mark has appeared as symbol to say this needs to be looked at. So once that has been done, the data approver can click Return to return the form to the data provider with a note saying, incomplete, check FTEs, for example, and then click Return. Okay. That form will be sent back to the data approver. We'll log back out and back into, the data provider. And as you can see, our form has been returned. So we'll click on the form. We see we've got this red question mark. So what we do is click on that and go to the queries. We'll see check FTE numbers much higher than anticipated. So we could find that yes, they're right. This is much higher than it should be. It should actually be 10. Okay, so we made that change. And what we can do now is resolve that. So all you have to do is click Add Comment or Resolve. And from there, click Respond and Resolve. And then write a comment related to the changes you make. Or if there aren't any changes required, you could just write a note saying data correct. So we'll just put FTEs changed to 10 and then click Save. You can then close this window. We'll see now if that question mark was turned into a tick to say that it's been resolved. We can close that now. And now that's been changed and updated, we can submit for approval again and add a note. And submit. Okay, this is the same process that you'll go through for all the forms. Are there any questions at this point? Or is everything clear? Yeah?
It's clear, thank you.
Okay, excellent. So I will just walk through the other questionnaires, the other delegation forms, just so you have an idea of what you'll be looking at. So we'll go back to the home page. And first we'll look at the paper usage form. Okay, the data usage form, we're looking for the amount of paper that you've used and also the weight of the paper that you've recycled. Again, you can choose the units for this, so you could have in kilograms or in tons, depending on what you collect. We also have this form at the bottom called a logging form. It's kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. You're able to put individual entries in. So, for example, say you had 12 invoices that you needed to input, you could put 12 different entries in here. So we'll just do an example one. So we can click Add or click on the bottom line. So you can put in the paper type. So for this example, we use printed paper. Let's call it text. Do you know the total kilograms of paper paper product purchased in the reporting year? We can say yes, we do. And say it was 20 kilograms. What percentage of the materials was recycled? We'll say 20%. And also you can highlight the data quality. So is this taken from actual measurements, or is this an estimated value based on extrapolation? For this, we'll say it's actual. All fields with a red star are mandatory. Those will need to be completed. And once you've completed them, you can click Save. And those appear at the bottom of the table.
Just to jump in for 1 second, I'm not sure if it was clear to everyone, but on that paper form, the question about recycled is not how much of the paper are you recycling, but rather how much of the product that you purchase comes from recycled material. So if it's a 50% recycled paper or 100% recycled paper, and you use that, it's actually what is it made from, and not what do you do with it after. It's the question that's come up before, so I just want to clarify for you guys.
And another thing I'll just point out before I go into the next form is we've got these calculation forms. They automatically fill themselves in based on what you've input in this section. So you don't need to fill in those. These will be filled in by completing the form at the bottom. Okay. Next, we'll go on to the waste recycling form. Okay, so for this form, we're looking for the data about what you're recycling and in terms of paper, carton, plastic, and any other waste that was recycled. Again, you can choose the units for each section. So how much paper was recycled in the reporting year? You can use kilograms or tons. The cost per kilogram recycling paper, you could again choose the currency that's related to your country. And you're also able to upload any supporting documentation or invoices that relate to the recycling of the paper. So to upload a file, you just click Choose File, and you just choose the file that you want to upload and click Open. And it's the same for the other two sections as well. Okay, we'll go back. We've also got the water consumption form, and here we're just looking for a little bit of information. But the amount of water you've consumed, and this can be in meters cubed or in liters, depending on how it's metered by your utility provider. And also the cost per unit of water. Again, you can choose the currency, your local currency. And finally, you can upload invoices that relate to your water consumption. Okay. We'll also go on to this form. This is the travel form. The first question is, please upload an Excel spreadsheet containing the codes for the origin and destination airport codes for each flight booked for the year. Stephanie has put together an Excel template for you to complete and upload, and I'll open that in a couple of minutes and she can talk you through that. There's also an extra couple of questions relating to whether each row of the data each row of data indicates data for one-way or round trip, so you just select radio button, and also whether it's for single or multiple passengers. I'll just open up the spreadsheet.
Okay, great. So this is an example of a form that we've actually had uploaded into the system, provided by an office in Hong Kong. So what it shows you is for the entire reporting year from 1st of January to 31st of December, shows you the departing airport and arrival airport for each business flight that was taken by one of our colleagues for business purposes. So it can look completely different in your office, however you are tracking it, but what's important is that the information in column B and C be available. You can probably find this best if you're lucky through a staff travel booking department. If you don't have a staff travel booking department, then you can usually find this in the bills for in the finance department. They're usually helpful, and the invoices usually have the airport codes in them as well. So this is the file that you would have to just upload into the system, and then you just also let us know if each row is referring to a one-way or a round trip.
The final form is the catalog consumption form, and that's just looking for one data field to be entered, and that's the catalog data consumed for the business unit in the reporting year. Okay. Just finish off by saying that at every stage when something's changed in the form, you will receive an email and be notified that changes have been made. If any data is required to be completed or is overdue, you will receive an email about that also. So if it's been returned or approved, you'll also get an email for that. So at every stage you'll receive an email to say something's occurred with your delegation form. You won't have to keep logging on back and forward to check whether anything is required. You will be notified by email. And that's everything from me. I'll hand back over to Stephanie.
Thank you very much, Lisa. I think that was quite a clear explanation of everything. I think the questions mainly will come once you guys are able to log in and actually start playing around with the software. Just a little bit on some clarifications in terms of what it is that we have in mind for some of these things. When we looked at the water form, we mainly mean there the water consumed in your toilet facilities and your hand washing, not just the drinking water that's consumed by the employees, but mainly the big consumption in water in an office is usually the bathroom. So usually you can get this information from the municipal bills. And regarding paper, we mean copy paper, printer paper, but also envelopes and papers that you might use for printing receipts for customers, etc. Good. So usually we run the data collection process in January. So every January we ask you to log into the system and to fill in the data from the previous year. And it always runs from January 1st to December 31st. Your human resources figure should be taken for the last day of the year, so 31st December of that reporting year. And we really encourage you to upload at least 1 or 2 sample invoices for your metrics. You don't have to upload every monthly invoice, but maybe just 1 or 2 so that we can see the trend of consumption in your office, and that really helps with the auditing process, and it also helps to minimize the forms that are returned to you for clarification. The returns process usually happens February to March. So if there is, for some reason, a question about some of the data that you have uploaded, you will be getting an alert in your email box sometime February of the year.